In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to build a drawing application in Ionic using Canvas. And like a few videos I've done in the past, this is going to be a live style video. I don't have a particular idea about how I'm going to build this. I just have a general idea of what I want to build, and that's just a simple drawing application where you can change some colors, maybe use a few different brush types, and draw some things on the screen. And so obviously as part of this tutorial, we're going to be talking about how to use the canvas element in Ionic, which is just a normal HTML5 element. You can use it anywhere, and basically it just provides a space on the screen that you can draw stuff on with a JavaScript API. And so I'm not super familiar with the canvas element. I've used it a lot in the past, but so I've got the documentation for that, or rather, I guess some tutorials set up here that we can refer to if we get stuck on things. But basically, we'll be doing things like drawing lines and shapes and that kind of stuff. And we've got the Ionic documentation here as well if we need it. So to start off with, what I might do is just generate a new custom component for the drawing space that we're creating. So this will allow us to create this sort of custom component that we can then input anywhere where we wanted to use this drawing space, rather than hard coding it into, say, the home page or something like that, which is a lot less modular, and we won't be able to reuse it as easy in the future. And so the basic idea that I'm thinking is that we'll have a big square. The drawing space is basically going to take up the entire width and height of the page, and then we'll have probably a nav bar at the top or a toolbar at the top, and at the bottom as well to control brush size and color. Now, what usually happens in these videos is I drastically underestimate the amount of time it's going to take me to do things. So as a goal for this video, we'll try and just get to the point where we can draw on the screen, just a simple black line perhaps, and then I'll do another video where we'll do some things like adding colors and brush sizes. So we'll have that as a goal, and we'll see how far we can get. So as I mentioned, we're going to build a custom component, so let's do that to start off with. So we'll just run Ionic G component, and we will call this just canvas draw, I reckon. Will work well. And now I'm just going to serve that again. And you can see here that we get an error about the Ionic module here. And I guess Ionic's kind of at this in-between stage at the moment with the new lazy loading features in Ionic 3. It's not entirely clear what the preferred option is at the moment or how we should go about that. So basically we have the option of either lazy loading things or not. And to keep things simple in this tutorial, I'm going to not lazy load anything. So I'm just going to delete this page, this module file rather. If you wanted to use lazy loading, you just need to change Ionic module to Ionic page module. That's just a bit of a typo there. But we're just going to delete that completely. And in order to use this component throughout our application, we're going to need to add it to the module file in our app folder here. So I'm just going to import that here. And I've already forgotten what it was called. Canvas draw. So import canvas draw from the components folder. And then we just need to set it up as a declaration here. So now we'll be able to use this component throughout the application. You can see in here, it just has a selector of canvas draw. So if we were to come into the home page, we could just put, I'm just going to get rid of all of this. We just put canvas draw, and that's going to insert our custom component there. And so right now, this is just, it just has some text in the template. You can see there it has that interpolation of text, and then in here it has text set to hello world. So all the app is going to do now is display hello world. And rather than getting rid of everything there, I actually add that iron content back in. And I'm going to set that to no bounce so that the content area doesn't scroll up and down. It's kind of fixed there. Okay, so if you look at the browser now, you see we have hello world in the top corner there, which means our custom component is working. It's being set up correctly. So now we just need to make that be a wonderful canvas that we can draw on and create magnificent paintings. So to start off with, let's first try to include the canvas element there. So if I come into the component here, we're going to get rid of that because I'm not going to need that anymore. If we come into the TypeScript file for the canvas draw component, we can also get rid of this text member variable. We're not using that. Or this. Get rid of this comment here. And now we have a pretty good blank template to work from. So let's jump back into the template then and add the canvas component. And all the canvas is a template, rather a tag that is just canvas, and you give it a width and a height, and that is it. And so I'm not going to give it a width and a height now because I want to set that dynamically depending on the height and the width of the screen we're working with. So what I'm going to do is use the platform API from Ionic to detect what the width and the height is, and then use that to set those attributes dynamically in here. So to start off with, all I'm going to do is give this a template variable of, we'll just call it my canvas, and that's going to allow us to easily grab that in here. And so to grab a reference to that, we're going to have to use viewChild from the Angular library, and then we can set up the viewChild here, and we'll just call it, well, we got to reference my canvas because that's the name we set up here. And then we just got to give it a name, and we'll call it, we'll just call it canvas. And then, so throughout this file here, we'll be able to reference this.canvas to gain access to that. And so we'll just check that that works. We'll add an ng after view init hook here, which will run after the view is initialized and after we have access to that. And we'll just log out this.canvas to make sure that we've done everything correctly so far. Okay, so you can see over in the console here, we have an element reference, and we can see the native element of canvas, and then we have access to everything we need there. And if we find it in here, find the element itself, you can see it's strange that it gets set to that size by default, but that is what, oh, sorry, that's our component. This is the canvas we want. So I guess the default for that is 300 by 150 for some reason. That's not something I was aware of, but obviously that's not what we want. We're going to change that so this canvas fills up the entire screen. So to do that, we're going to use this reference we've set up here. And we're going to actually create a separate reference to, I'm going to create one called canvas element. And so when we're working with this, we're going to be working with the native element directly, which is the actual DOM element, not the element reference, which is this kind of Angular thing, which is providing us access to that element. So this is what we want to work with here, native element. And you can see this is just all the normal DOM properties for Canvas. So I'm going to create a separate member variable there, and I'm going to set that to the native element. And we're going to be referencing that a lot, so that's just going to make it a little bit easier to do. And we're also going to import platform from Ionic Angular here, which is the normal Ionic library. And we're going to set that up in the constructor. And then we're going to use that to figure out the width and the height of the screen. And so if I remember correctly, that should be available through should be this.platform.width. So let me just check that works. I'm not 100% sure that that is the function. Okay, yeah, so we have 1,366 there, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to use that width and the height to set the width and height attributes on the canvas now. And to do that, we're going to use something called the renderer, which I'm not going to talk about in this video. I've talked about it a few times in the past, but essentially it's just a kind of platform agnostic way to make changes to an element's style or attributes or something like that using Angular, rather than manipulating that DOM element directly, which you could also do. So we'll just call that renderer, set that up there, And so what we can do now is use this .renderer.set element attribute. And we're going to supply it with the native element, the actual DOM element of the canvas there. So we'll do this .canvas element. And then we need to supply the name of the attribute we want to set, which will be width. And then we're going to set it to the width at platform that we get from platform. And then we're just going to do the same thing, but for the height. So with any luck, hopefully that works, and we have a canvas taking up the full space of the screen now. So we've got an error here saying that we can't assign a number to a property that requires a string here. So there's a bit of a workaround for that. I should be able to just add on an empty string there, and that'll convert this to a string, I believe. Okay, so that seemed to got rid of that error. So hopefully now if we find the canvas again, in here we have a full width canvas, and we do. So that takes up the entire width and height of the screen now, which is cool. And this canvas draw sort of container element here for the canvas doesn't take up the full height of the screen, which is probably going to cause problems for us. So we will fix that right now, and we'll just add a height 100% and width 100% here. And I've just got that canvas element up here again. Now it's still not taking up the whole screen, because it also needs to be, I think the display property is set to inline probably. If we bring this up here, and we'll make sure we've got that selected, and just find the display property, display inline, yeah, so we need to set that to block as well. Because otherwise it's trying to render that element like it would text, but we don't want it to do that. So now we have it taking up the full width and height. We've got the container element taking up the full width and height as well. So that should be good now. Okay, so now we want to move on to the more interesting stuff. We want to actually draw something on the screen. And to do that, we're going to have to respond to the user touching the screen. And there's actually a bit of scroll going on here now. I'll deal with that later though. It looks like the content is probably slightly larger than the screen itself, but I'll deal with that later. So we want to respond to user input and draw wherever they are holding down and dragging, well, the mouse in this case, but when they're on an actual device where they're dragging their finger. So what we're going to have to do is listen to some events. And so if we come to the canvas here, we're going to add some listeners to this directly. And so the events we're interested in are touch start. And we'll use a function called, we'll just say handle start. And we'll pass through the event for that. We also want a touch move. So this is the touch start is when they first start touching the screen. Touch move is when they're actually moving their mouse or finger. And so we use handle move for that. And then potentially also touch end. I'm not sure whether we'll use that or not yet, but I'll include it for now. And so we'll just call that handle end. And then we should be able to come into TypeScript file again and set up those functions. So I have handle start. Now we'll just log these events out for now. And I'll just copy and paste that to make it a bit easier. So handle start, handle move, and handle end. So let's go back into the browser now, and hopefully as we drag around on this space, we'll see some console log statements popping up with the event. So I'm going to touch and drag, and cool. So we have a whole bunch of touch events showing up now, which is exactly what we want. So now we just need to use those events to draw something. So we're going to focus on just the touch move event for now, and we just want to draw a line wherever the user is dragging. And so we're going to have to use some properties here to do that. We want to know their sort of position on the screen. And to do that, we can use probably the touches property here, I would imagine would be the best bet. You can see here we have a page X and a page Y value that we can use to see where on the screen they have tapped. I'm not sure if it's actually the page X or the screen X, I forget. We'll go with page X first and we'll see what happens. So basically what we want to do is keep track of where the user is dragging and then draw a line between those 2 points. So that means we, as well as using the current page X and page Y, we're also going to need to know the last page X and page Y. So wherever the last event triggered from and wherever the next event triggers from, we want to draw a line between those 2 points. So we're going to set up another member variable here called, we're going to call them last X, and that'll be a number, and a last Y, and that will also be a number. So in this handle move event here, we're going to grab the page X and the page Y. We're going to detect if it's the whether or not it's the first. Well, I suppose actually we can handle that in the handle start. So we'll use a handle start event to get the X and the Y first. So we'll just do this dot last X equals what was it, event dot touches, and that was the first touch there, and then the page X value. And we'll just do the same for the Y value as well. And then once this handle move function has finished, we're going to update those values to be the new value from the latest event. But first, we're going to draw that line. Now, in order to do anything with the canvas, we need to call this function called getContext, and then we interact with the context of the canvas, which allows us to draw things onto it. So to get a reference to that, I'm just going to do I'm going to create a new variable just called ctx to make it short, and that's going to be this dot canvas element dot getContext 2D. And now with that, we can use the various with the JavaScript API that is provided, so we can do things like creating lines and stroking those lines, or filling shapes, creating shapes. Any of the methods that are available we can use through that. And so we're just going to use the line to method, and then we're going to stroke that line to create the effect of the user drawing a line on the screen. So what we can do is we'll do context dot begin path, which is going to start the path for us. We want to move that to a certain spot on the screen. So we're going to move that to wherever the last X and the last Y were. So these are the coordinates. This dot last X, this dot last Y. And then we're going to create a line from that point to the new point, which is the current X and Y. So I might actually just create a separate variables for that here. We'll create a current X and current Y, since we're going to have to use this twice anyway. And then we'll just modify these down here to use those instead to tidy things up a bit. So we're going to line to current X, current Y. And then we're going to close that path. And then we can supply a stroke style, which I think is just the, we can just provide the color to that. So we'll just do black. Can't remember 100% if that is how that works, but we'll look it up in a second if it doesn't work. And we can set the line width for that line. So we'll just set it to, say, 5. Why not? And then finally, we just stroke that line. So the stroke just basically traces over the line, essentially. So if you had a long horizontal line, the stroke is just going to kind of draw over that with the black color with a line width of 5. So nothing will actually, we won't actually see anything until you stroke that line. This is all just defining where we want to draw. So with that, hopefully we have the ability to draw a line on the screen. As I mentioned, it's been a while since I've used this, so I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work. So we'll see what happens here. We'll start moving and we get errors. We've got stroke style does not exist. So let's bring up that tutorial. See if we can find a stroke style reference in here. Okay, I've just got the W3 schools page up here, and yeah, I'm using that wrong. That should be just defined as a string. That's not a function call. So we'll just change that to stroke style equals black. And I'm pretty sure the rest is right. I'm pretty sure that's how you use line width. But I could be wrong about that too. We'll see. Okay, let's try drag again, and we have more errors. Line width. I bet that is the same thing. Should I look it up? Yes. Okay, yeah, that's again just a simple assignment, not a function call. Now let's give it a go again. Okay, fingers crossed. And there we go. We do have a line drawing on the screen now, which is awesome. We also have all these events logging out, which is annoying. So I'm going to get rid of those for now. And let's make that a bit chunkier just for fun. Okay, so we have our line drawing around the screen now. As you can see, it's kind of this square type shape. So what I might do actually is, I think it's line join. You can set. I don't know if that has to be before this. So yeah, there's a line join property you can set to I think round. I think that's how you use it. Probably wrong again, but we will see. And yeah, so rather than being a sort of square end to the line there, it's going to be circular. So more like a brush you'd use in Photoshop or whatever. Let's try that again. And yeah, so now we have a sort of more circular line join. So yeah, that pretty much works now. Let's also see if we can get rid of that annoying slight scroll on the, you can see as I go up and down here, it's kind of bobbing a little bit. And I'm assuming that's because the canvas is probably breaking out of the bounds of the content area. Let me just scroll that down. So let's find the canvas area. I might be able to cheat here rather than searching around for what is actually causing this. Just for the sake of brevity, I should be able to set this to overflow hidden on the scroll content, and I think that'll stop. Yeah, that stops the scroll. So I'm just going to do that for now. Probably a better idea to find what is actually sort of causing it to break out of the box a bit there. But yeah, we're just going to set scroll content. Sorry, not in here. We'll just set that on the home page. And we'll set that to overflow hidden. We'll just refresh that to make sure that that is applying correctly. Cool, yeah. So now the screen doesn't bob around as we're drawing. So we've got to the point where we were aiming to get in this video. We have our canvas component created, and we can draw a simple line on that, which responds to a touch move event. So in the next video, we'll take this a bit further and just allow you to customize the drawing a bit. So we had the ability to change the brush size and to change some colors as well. That's probably about as far as we'll get. And maybe even we'll potentially do more videos in the future. Maybe doing things like adding shapes and stuff like that. So again, we'll see where we get to in the next video. So I hope you enjoy this one, and I will see you there.